Sodor has a lot of locally based industries. Many of these we only know of through rolling stock appearing in the background. So you know what? We're gonna make a video about them. Welcome to a video on Sodor's industries. We'll go through a few of these and what they did over the years. In fact, all the material in this video is just headcanon material. It's not official or anything. It's all a bit of fun in the end. So without further ado, let's begin. The first industry of focus is the Fred Pelham Company. They were established in 1906 by, well, Fred Pelham, based out of Sodor. They would distribute coal to towns across the Sundry Peninsula. They will essentially buy coal from the same importers the Wilson and Sodor bought their coal from, and had the coal delivered from there, via rail and road. Fred Pelham Company had a distribution center along the outskirts of Sodor, where all the coal would be sorted and shipped out via road. This center led to a lot more people moving into the area for work. This would eventually lead to the birth of Lower Sodor much later. The Fred Pelham Company would build up a roster of coal trucks, all painted in the company's bright orange colors. By the mid-1920s, the Wilson Sodor was no more due to grouping. It was now part of the Northwestern Railway. All the engines across Sodor's network were shuffled around. Some relocated to other parts of the island, and others were sold off. It was also during this time the FP facility in Lower Sodor demanded its own shunter. The company initially wanted to buy an engine like Billy, as he was one of the Wilson Sodor engines local to the area. But the cement works nearby already purchased him, so they instead purchased a fireless engine from Andrew Barclay. This engine would be the first of its kind on Sodor. This new engine was named Weldon. He was built to order and shipped out in the mid-1920s. Weldon spent most of his days shuffling wagons of coal at the Fred Pelham facility. He was somewhat of an introvert and didn't talk to the other engines too much, but he didn't mind this at all. He was already good friends with some of the trucks at Fred Pelham, including the one truck which was the namesake of the company. The Fred Pelham Company would continue operations through the Great Depression, and would hit its peak right before World War II began, with facilities all over Sodor, mostly in towns with little to no access to the railways. Following this, eventually came the rise of diesel. The demand for coal ultimately began to fall. As the 50s dragged on, Fred Pelham Company saw their business fall as well. The contracts with local towns dried up, and most of the facilities closed. By the 1960s, all that was left was the original facility based in Lower Sodor. That was until an incredible discovery. Coal was discovered around 1966 between Elsbridge and Crosby. This led to coal imports ending, and Fred Pelham gained a new route of business. With the imports mostly gone, they pivoted to a deal with the Northwestern Railway, and they would end up getting a good chunk of the coal mined from this area, and also their own dedicated facility in the area. This would revive Fred Pelham Company to an extent, and their main shunter Weldon would be relocated to this new coal mine to help out. Things were going well for the first time in a very long time, and the coal mine is still active as of this time period. What happens in the later years is yet to be determined. This is where the Fred Pelham saga concludes, at least for now. Now we transition to the ULP or ULP. This company is a lot like Fred Pelham, where our only pieces of evidence of its existence are cameos in the backgrounds of railway series illustrations. This company has very little surrounding it, as at least with Fred Pelham we had that one wooden railway toy indicating it was a coal company. With ULP we have nothing. There are some sources saying it could be related to petroleum, but I just don't think that's the case, considering the two times we see the company existing, there is a van and an open truck. So it can really be anything, I feel like. Hence why my take is very different from what a lot of people expect. In Porterverse continuity, the ULP or ULP stands for Olstead Light Parcel Company. They are a universal exporter of light goods coming out of Olstead. They began business in 1926 and gained contracts with the Northwestern Railway pretty much right off the bat. They will have trains of their private-owned wagons transported by the branch-side engines to Knapford, where the goods will be unloaded and shipped elsewhere. These trains are relatively short and were usually tacked on to pre-existing goods trains, although the vans would usually be returned at some point in the day. The Ope Company will eventually acquire one of the copycat engines that after they were drawn in the 1920s. The engine they acquired was not Glenn, by the way, instead one of the other copypots, named Otto. He is quite the character. Otto will be the only engine at ULP for many years. He of course did have the company of the Parcel engines and the Ope vans, but he was the only designated shunter at the Olstead Light Parcel Company facility, although that would change come the 1950s. By the 1950s, Olstead Light Parcel Company began to boom. Many more shipments going in and out, and the aging Otto would need more help sorting them out. The company purchased a recently withdrawn LNER Y7 tank engine and repainted her to match Otto. This engine's name was Laverna. Laverna did a lot of the heavy lifting upon her arrival, and her story is still being worked out along with her character as well. So maybe expect a video on her pretty soon. Same with Weldon and Otto as well. And like with Fred Pelham, this is all I've written in terms of the general timeline of Olstead Light Parcel Company. But what comes next remains in the air. Now onto the final industry of focus for the video. Sodor China Clay. This one will be fun. As you know, it's Bill and Ben we're talking about mostly. Here we go. The beginnings are practically the same as the Railway series for the most part. Although the low clearance that led to Bill and Ben arriving, the Pacific Bridge is a little bit taller. Although Bill and Ben remain exactly the same. The twin engines would arrive in 1946 to help build and later operate the clay pits at Brandon. They will operate as normal for many years. That was until the pits fucking collapsed. The collapse of Sodor China Clay's pits in the 1960s was devastating. There is no other word for it. Most of the equipment was destroyed and about half of the pits were completely buried. Miraculously, no one lost their life in the avalanche, and very few injuries were reported. This was largely due to Bill and Ben's heroic efforts, hauling the workers to safety in clay wagons. Sodor China Clay's business was practically just shattered after this. However, they were very adamant on reopening, no matter how long it took. So much so, they brought in 2 new engines specifically to help rebuild. Enter Timothy and Derek. These two, along with Bill and Ben, would spend the next 18 months clearing and rebuilding the clay pits. Eventually, the clay pits would reopen and begin thriving once again. In fact, they are still operating today. And that was a handful of Sodor's major industries. I don't know about you guys, but I've always found ULP and Fred Pelham Company pretty interesting, and love seeing other people's takes on these companies. So it was pretty satisfying to finally flesh them out. As for the OCs I randomly name dropped in this video, well, expect some new episodes of Porterverse OCs relatively soon. Thank you all very much for watching, and I will see you all same time next week.